I know it's afternoon. Almost the evening, but good morning.
You guys, so I'm gonna ask them today, what the hell are you doing for Black Lives Matter? I just want to give credit to Black culture for bringing like all the swag, all the influence, all the art everyone in America makes. It's influenced by Black people and the greatness of Black culture and fashion and art. And the money does not go to Black people enough, so we need to support our Black artists and our Black small businesses. Spending our money, not giving it to the fucking politicians, so regular people can become politicians and make a difference. But it starts with supporting who is influencing you. So I want to give all credit for any of my creative success to Black culture, because you influence everyone and not get credit for it.
Maybe I'll find some drugs, I'll find some weed, I'll find a gun that's not registered, I'll find some warrants, a suspended license, something. If I don't, oh yeah, just take the air freshener down. Bullshit. This is the type of systematic racism that we are up against. And the only thing that gives me hope, honestly, is coming out here and seeing this. It's spaces like this being created, conversations like this happening, resistance happening. That's the only way we're gonna get any justice. Because we know that Craig is not gonna do it. We know that Kim Worthy is not gonna do it. We know that Mike Duggan is not gonna do it. And we know that Biden is not gonna do it. So the only way that we get resignations of mayors and chiefs and officers that commit murders, executions, public lynchings, the only way we get charges and actually get convictions from those charges is this consistent presence at any given moment for any injustice that may happen. The only way that we make anything change, that we get any injunctive relief, that we get all these charges dropped, is that we stand strong and we stand together. And that we've done. Month after month, week after week, day in and day out. So the only hope that I have that Sammy won't have to worry about her little brother holding Skittles and sandwiches outside is that if we stay together and we keep this movement going.
Sure. All right. Hey.
Because it's not a policy question. We know the policy is fucked up. DPD say it's a policy not to evict people. We know that they lying. It's not a training issue. We know that training don't do shit. It's a character thing. The character of this whole system is corrupt. So we gotta fucking do away with it. And we gotta create something that actually works for the people. Because the last thing I'll touch on is people say, oh, well, Dante should have just cooperated. George Floyd should have cooperated. They should have listened to what the police were saying. But we see, even when you do that, 13-year-old kid put his hands up, still get shot. They're still killing us. I'm tired of people who never been in our situation trying to tell us what we should have done. You've never been afraid like this. You never seen a police officer and start sweating and start worrying and think, is this one of them trigger-happy cops that's gonna kill me because I moved too fast? You never felt like this. You never been in Africa and saw a hungry lion coming towards you and say, oh no, you should just stand still. If I see a hungry lion coming towards me, my instinct is going to be get the fuck out of Dodge. He coming for blood. So don't get mad at these black individuals who see a hungry, trigger-happy officer coming for blood, and their first instinct is to get the fuck out of Dodge. It's a survival instinct. They're killing us. Even if we cooperate, they're killing us. So we got to stand strong. We got to stay together, and we got to keep going. We got to keep our ears to the street, keep protecting our people, and stay committed. Last summer, we made a commitment. I see a lot of familiar faces, so y'all keeping up with that commitment. But we got to stay committed. So if you committed, I'm going to do this real quick, because you know how I do. Repeat after me. Say, I'm committed.
I'm committed.
I'm committed.
I'm committed.
I'm committed.
I'm committed.
I'm committed. I'm committed to justice.
To justice.
I'm committed
I'm committed.
to justice.
To justice.
I'm committed
I'm committed.
to the people.
To the people.
I'm committed
I'm committed.
to the people.
To the people.
I'm committed
I'm committed.
to each other.
To each other.
I'm committed
I'm committed.
to justice.
To justice.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Tired down.
All right, now we're gonna go ahead and have Kosecha come up here and speak.
Let's come up over here with you.
Hey y'all. Hi. My name's Sergio. This is Fabi with Movimiento Cosecha. I'm gonna read this in Spanish first, and then I'll translate, and then I'll be translating Fabi as well.
Hi.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
About my black son. I worry about my black love, my black mom, my black father, my black brother, my black sister, my black family, my black people. I pray for all black people because I'm tired and sick and tired of being sick and tired. Y'all, I'm hurt.
on them, and then our safety team have yellow, and we're gonna follow our safety team. We have a cars to safety team, so don't get confused. If you're taking your car, we...
Translating for Fabi now. She says that she doesn't speak English, so I'm translating for her. She was saying that...
Then you are looking at the micro, minuscule differences between you and I that are not emphasized by the oppression of the system in which I live. I believe in Fred Hampton. I believe in Angela. I believe in the Rainbow Coalition. And everybody felt that you're at the wrong fucking party, bro. Because my white, my brown, my yellow, my black, my fucking family is right here with me. I can see the ancestral spirits saying, let your wings fly, my brother, express yourself. Don't give a fuck about those groups and those people who hate you, because they ain't about shit but getting some friends. I dropped my whole life to fight for justice. Anyone who profits off of humiliating another person is your enemy. Anyone who gives you a crime because of your differences, because someone else is your enemy. Anyone who makes you feel a negative feeling to your family, we are all family. They're your fucking enemy. All power to the people. Black power, my brothers and sisters.
The point. It's not a side effect. It's the point. And, you know, just another thing. They said, okay, we'll do body cameras. And what did they give us? They gave us viral executions of my people on camera.
That's right.
They said, we'll do diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings. And what did they give us? They gave us black and brown cops who are trying to stunt for their white colleagues that are just as brutal, if not more brutal than they are. They will play basketball with your kids one day for the photo op and shoot your child with a 40-millimeter projectile round the next. That's what their whole concept of reform is. The concept of police reform is dead. It has been dead since the police were reformed from slave catchers and strike breakers and overseers into the fastest military death squad that currently exists today. Abolishing the police is the baseline. Exactly 0% of the world's worst criminals have seen justice, have been prevented from carrying out their crimes. And who are the world's worst criminals? I'll tell you who the world's worst criminals are. It's the politicians. It's the war profiteers. It's the imperialists. It's the prison profiteers. It's the ecocide profiteers. It's the private developers. It's the police that keep bulldozing homeless encampments in Denver. Those are the real worst criminals. Exactly 0% of them have seen justice yet. They're still having weekend outings at the country club. It's because this system is not designed to protect us from the world's worst criminals. It is designed to protect the world's worst criminals from us. That's what the system is designed to do. We know from experience that cops who supposedly are too stupid to know the difference between a gun and a taser, right? Which is a bullshit excuse. I'm not even going to just... Yes, that exactly. This is not public safety. Real public safety is housing. Real public safety is healthcare. Real public safety is social engagement. It's community. It's making sure people's needs are met. It's economic stability. That's public safety, not death squads. Miss me with that. The system that we seek to overthrow and replace with is one where all of that's real. All of that, it's on the horizon. It's a possibility. The actuality of winning and liberation is a possibility. I want us to really, really ingest that. We can see this in our lifetime. We are an engine, people, and their utter disregard for our humanity is our fuel. So, as my comrade mentioned before, you know, we in the PSL especially, we insist that the solution is building a mass movement of the people, right? This mass movement needs to be millions strong nationwide, not dozens, millions. It has to be consciously built, consciously intervened and built, not passively observed. And most importantly, it has to be organized and disciplined for the simple fact that our enemies are organized and disciplined. They are a highly centralized, bureaucratic machine that responds reflexively to all threats against its authority, and they have 400 years of experience shedding blood to preserve it. This is not to scare us. No, it's just the reality of the situation. They're not invincible. They can be beaten. They have been beaten. But any mass movement has to take that into account and move accordingly, right? How many of y'all call yourselves revolutionaries? How many of y'all call yourselves revolutionaries? Then we must assume the revolutionary posture. Somebody asked me the other day, are you afraid to organize protests now because of the heat you got on you from the state right now? Listen, I have absolutely no fear of anybody. If you are flesh and bone, I do not fear you. I fear God. I fear no flesh and bone. The thing that I am most afraid of is another generation of this shit. That's what I fear most. That my people will be held captive for another generation by the so-called United States. That's what I fear the most. I fear that the next iteration of racial capitalism will be much worse and much more dystopian than this one. That is what I fear the most. But I see all of your faces. I hear the sound of your chants. I can hear the unity and resolve in your voices. When we march, the march consolidates our unity with each drop of sweat, with each step, and that fear recedes. It recedes. Because I know that as long as there are people that are willing to come forward and say, let's fight, I have hope. As the Field Marshal George Jackson of the Black Panther Party said, to struggle is to go the distance. To win is not to care how far one must go. So,
I'm hydrating right now. Looks like they're gonna have some more speakers. We're gonna stay.
On second-degree manslaughter, Kim Potts is the cop that thought she had her taser out and had a firearm.
Y'all, so I don't know if y'all know the drill, but when I say power to the people, what do you say? Okay, I need to be convinced, all right? Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. So up with the people. Down with the police. 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 When Black lives
is my struggle. Thank you.
When Black lives are under attack, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? When Black lives are under attack, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? If we don't get no justice, If we don't get no justice, I said 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 if we don't get no justice, if Dante don't get justice, I said if Dante don't get justice, I said if Dante don't get justice.
ACCC, ADCT. APAPA is a grassroots community-based, non-profit, non-partisan organization. APAPA focuses on increasing our community civic participation through voter education, voter registration, voter turnout, and also to build coalitions to have awareness and voices for our rights. That's what this rally is about. When we are talking about hate against the Asian, when we're talking about racial discrimination, we need to start with our history. On March 26, 1790, the Nationalization Act was signed into law, prohibiting non-white people from becoming citizens of the United States. Remember, non-white. Then 1882, Chinese Exclusion Act, prohibiting immigration from China. Over 200 years later, Asians, people of color in U.S. are still suffering from the effect of this racist history. United States has always been a country of immigrants. Asian immigrants have a long history here and have made so many outstanding contributions to this country. From building transcontinental railroad to building high-tech internet to connect the world today, from fighting for Americans in the world wars to representing U.S. Olympic teams on world stage, from fighting COVID in the front line to supply PPEs and food for the community in need, from Capitol Hill to Silicon Hill here. We are doing everything we can to create better tomorrow, better future, better America. Today we are here because this... Thank you. Today we are here because this is not in the year of 1800. We cannot be silenced anymore. We should not live in the fear of any race, verbal assault, physical attack, or killing. Just because we have a different skin color, we have a different language, and we have a different religion beliefs. I want to add a little story about myself. 40 years ago, when I was a college student here, I never have fear to go alone on street, anywhere. My old 20-year-old car always break on the highway of I-35. That time I paid $500 for that 20-year-old car from an older student. And I never feared. And people always reach out to me, to help anything I needed. I feel full of love and compassion back then. This is Texas also. But today, we are all fierce to going out in case we face the confrontation. I have to say this. I am not afraid to say something, to intervene if I see something not right. But this is not America. Last few years, American full of hate, full of extreme. This is not standard as a world leader to stand up as on the global. Let's stand all together with our compassion to stop Asian hate, stop hateful actions to all people of color. We have to put out these sparks before it becomes a wildfire. Together, we can and we must keep fighting for our American value, for human rights, for women's rights, for voting rights, for justice for all. Thank you.
Pretty much anything that supported movements that were deemed radical.
Like, if you think about it, that's why we didn't learn about black revolutionaries in high school. That's why they glazed over slavery in our history textbook. That is why pretty much everything that supported movements
that were deemed radical and listed as the biggest threats to the United States,
especially if they threaten the peace and the state and the security. Always the biggest threats. Some things that come to mind as me, for examples, are the Black Panther Party. If you've heard about the Black Panther Party, put your hand up.
If you've heard about the bombing
of Black Wall Street, put your hand up. If you've heard about the assassination of Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, MLK, etc., put your hand up. So that means y'all have no excuse, because y'all know. If you are black, you can be sleeping in your home and not know that a couple of hours later, there will be 8 bullets from pigs that would soon break into your house for no legitimate reason and murder you. Where if you are black, you can be shot dead for buying a bag of Skittles and having a can of Arizona. Where if you are black, as a mother, you are forced to watch as that same man, your son's murderer, walk the streets unarmed, unscathed, no indictment, no repercussions. I'm talking about Jacob Blake. I'm talking about Jacob Blake's murderer, who got to walk free this week. And then years later, is able to auction off the murder weapon that was used to end your child's life with no repercussions. I'm talking about Trayvon Martin's killer.
That is the type of country that we live in.
Where 5 black people can be hanged all in the same week, and they all be ruled suicide, and they also happen to occur in the wake of George Floyd's death, where black people's lives and suffering are quite literally reduced to nothing, to screams in the void, because that is what the pigs and the state see us as, and anyone who aligns with us see us as nothing. So all of you that are out here right now,
that are not black, they see you as nothing. So you have just as much of a responsibility. You have just as much of a responsibility.
Because he was a black man. Just like Mississippi Burning. Fuck me, watch the movie. Fuck me, watch the movie. You heard me?
By the state.
Mississippi Burning.
I had a story. You messaged me last summer on Instagram when I was organizing a counter Blue Lives protest in West Rock City. He said,
come on, man.
My dad is a cop. He's a good person. Like, he's a good person. He donates to charities. He does fundraisers.
I did my gang for the military.
And I said it to him. I said, you said it yourself.
That's how we gotta stop this shit.
He can be a good person. He can be a good person.
Let me find out what them illegal military weapons is at.
Cop.
I need those. If you listen to government,
there will be never, ever be a good cop. Not in this system. Not in this system.
My own kind gonna come come kill me too?
No good cops in a racist
Because he's in
system.
the army, because he took an oath to protect you motherfucking quick-ass government. I fuck with
Why are
salty
there no
crackers,
good pigs?
but I fuck with unsalted crackers. They are salty, they're unsalted.
Why are there no
Tom
good
Brady, I fuck with you. You're
Because no matter how good a person is or may seem, when they put that uniform
you got no
on, they
cigarettes.
are choosing to
Come on, I see you. Give me some love, baby. Come
institution
on.
that systematically murders innocent black people for sport. That normalizes putting bullets through the bodies of black people
Don't worry about it,
instinctual biases. That is complicit in the erasure of hundreds of thousands of millions of innocent black civilians. That traffics and rapes children. I'm talking about the ex-Boston former president union head, Patrick Rose, that went and got charged for raping and molesting children. That is BPD. That is right here in our city. Pay attention. Pay attention. Don't ignore it.
We're talking about kids that harass teenagers in their own communities that are allowed to rape anyone under their custody simply because they can.
What time is it?
Simply because there is no one to stop them. What pig is going to stop a pig?
I got mad ideas.
What pig is going to stop a pig?
Check this out.
The foundation of policing, as we all know, derived from slave catching. So the institution of policing in itself is inherently racist and inherently corrupt. So again, I let the young man know that I cannot separate your dad's positioning as a cop to who he is to you, because no matter what, he gets to choose
Encore Casino. You want a complimentary room tonight? I got you.
He gets to choose murder.
It's
I
my
don't get
trolley
to choose
card.
to be
New York
black.
City trolley card slide.
I don't get to choose to be black.
That's my master.
I don't get to take my skin off and decide when I'm done being black. It's a forever thing that I will always live with. Black and proud, I'll tell you that. But not everyone sees it that way.
You know me, do.
So I explained to him.
Round of applause, man.
He gets to choose every day to be a part of a system that he knows has a history of murdering and brutalizing black people specifically and marginalized people in general. Every day he puts on that uniform, he decides who he will be. And regardless of who he is to you, you cannot expect black people to be perceptive to individuals that align themselves with a system that allows them to murder, brutalize, and in turn jail their people. Because for me, like I said, I don't get to choose whether I get to live or die by the gun of someone like his father. Black people don't get to choose whether they live or die when they are confronted by a pig. They either get lucky or they die. They either get lucky or they die. They don't get that choice the way his father did. And that is exactly what I mean. I think of Philando's daughter, who had to feel the blood of her father's body splattered on her 4-year-old carcass as pig Geronimo Yanez screamed into his ear. I think about Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, who will have to live with the trauma of knowing that she died right in front of him, and they put him in jail first. And her killers never, ever got charged. I want you all to think of what that would feel like, to lose someone that you know, and nothing is done simply because you don't matter. Because you don't matter. I think of George Floyd's daughter. Every time she looks up her father's name, yes, she will know that his face ignited a movement, but she will see that video, that 9-minute video that we all were forced to watch. She will see that. The video of her father's windpipe being crushed under the weight of white pig named Derek Chauvin. She will see as her father's last breath was ripped away from his body as he suffocated under the knee of a police officer. And I apologize for the gruesome picture, but it is important that we understand the depths of what debt does to a human being. Debt sanctioned by the state nonetheless, the same government that is sworn to protect its citizens. And now, I had to add Dante Wright's daughter to that list, because she too will suffer the same fate that George Floyd's daughter will, that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend will, of being forced to watch murderers murder. And nothing happened. Black people have been been and are killed by local law enforcement so often that our deaths have become skippable because of the way they've become almost synonymous with American culture. The state-sanctioned murder of black and brown bodies has been occurring since the first black people were ripped off the very shores of Africa. So when you see people looting a Hermes or vandalizing a Louis, that is not recently manifested anger. That is not new. That is anger that runs within our roots, within our bloods, within our ancestors. That is anger that is generational. So that anger of seeing the same continuation of black oppression over and over and over and over again, it's real. And it does not matter if it was under Obama or Trump or Nixon or Clinton, because it's all cyclical, because that is how the system was made, to work against us. So I want y'all to remember, it doesn't matter who's at the head of the table if the table has a broken foundation. So I want to end again with why we are here. With why we are here. That is why we are here. Because we are the ones that must now take on the duty. We are the ones that will push forth this revolution and dismantle the racist, capitalist, imperialist system that allows black lives to be reduced to target practices with pigs with an ego problem. And that is why, if y'all look around, it's not just black people in this crowd no more, right? Look around you real quick, one more time. Take a look around you. This is why the old racist white people hate us, because a lot of us in the revolution, y'all look like them, okay? This fight is not one colored anymore. We got color codes of all area codes. And that is what power looks like. And they hate that shit. This unification for black liberation and liberation for all oppressed people scares them because they know that they quite literally cannot erase all of us, right? They can't kill all of us. And we are not a generation that lets the fuck up. We are the generation that we will rewrite the scripts of history. And I am confident about this because look at us here today. There's something moving about seeing so much youth also power the movement, power these protests. It's invigorating to say the least. And that speaks highly to our generation's courage. That speaks highly to our generation's courage. Every time we come to a protest, we are risking our lives, and sometimes I think we forget that. In these last few months, despite the peaceful protests, we have lost comrades, and again, we are just at the beginning of this revolution. So I know y'all are tired, but keep fucking fighting. We have lost comrades that have been both black and white. They lost their lives fighting for this movement. They lay to rest alongside George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Emmett Till, Daunte Wright, Moses Harris, Terrence Coleman, and so many fucking more. So when we come out here, we remind ourselves what we are risking and what and who we are risking our lives for. Because now we are also marching for them, and our work does not end here. Our work does not end here. It is not only about going to protest. It is about doing the work both on and offline. It is about committing yourself to this movement with every core of your being, because a lot of us here are fighting for survival. If you are not fighting for survival, fight like you are. Fight like you are. Use your privilege and fight like hell for those who can't, for those that have been lost. It is about dedicating the rest of your life to battling white supremacy and embodying anti-racism. To reading, to learning, to then educating, and to intentionally then fighting. To be a warrior in this movement and ally for this cause is to do everything within your power to dismantle capitalism and white supremacy, because the two are indeed synonymous. Because capitalism cannot survive without racism, and racism does not exist. It does not exist without the confines of capitalism. So we must dedicate ourselves to eradicating these systems and building a new foundation. One that is built in abolition, one that is built in liberation, and one that is ultimately built in love. In hopes that the generations that come after us are not forced to fight still, are not forced to suffer the same fate that we have had to, that generations before us have had to. So it is on us now, comrades, to do the necessary work. Because until all of us are free, none of us are free. Because Black liberation results in the liberation of all oppressed people, poor people, women, indigenous folks, the LGBTQIA community, the disabled community. Can I go on to the BIPOC community? So I'll end here. And I want y'all to repeat after me. Liberation. 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 By any means necessary. 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 Thank you, comrades.
Make some noise for Yuri.
What else can we do? What else is it going to take for us to be free? Because even in the middle of all of that, we still got Black and brown people being murdered at the hands of the state. Right now, Biden is putting more money into detaining immigrant children. Right now, we dropping dead from COVID-19 in droves. And I know a lot of people feel like, what is it going to take? And I was wondering as I was driving here if there was something that I could say to answer that question for people in a really clear way. And I'm sorry, because the answer is everything. It's going to take everything. Every single thing that we have to get us free. And I know that for a lot of people, last year was their first time coming out into the streets and standing up and fighting in defense of Black and brown lives. And this year has shaped into what none of us imagined it would be. And a lot of people are feeling really sad. And I keep hearing the word tired. And I understand that. Trust me, I understand that. But what we've won is really important to understand. What we've won is really important to talk about, because we know Dante's right name because of what we did last year and what we've been continuing to do. Every single time the police have murdered somebody, we've been able to respond to that as a movement. And that's a victory. That's a victory. That's a victory. Because we've been able to put the state on guard, because they know that when they try to evict us, we're going to be there. And we have the ability and the capacity to respond because we built it. Because we built it. Because we made sure that we were going to keep us safe. And I know that this is not, I don't sound like super whatever, and I'm sorry about that. But I just want us to, keep our eyes on the prize and also understand what it is that we've done here in Detroit and across the world. I say this all the time. I love this city more than I love myself, and I mean it. And I mean it not just because I was born here, because I struggled here, but because the fight in this city has historically been so dynamic. And at every single moment in the history of this country that they've had to write something in the books, that they've had to talk about Black liberation, they've had to talk about Detroit. They've had to talk about this city. They had to talk about the cloth that I'm cut from, that we cut from here. They had to talk about poor Black women like me. That's who they had to talk about. And that's still true today. I don't know if people saw, there was an article in The Guardian where they examined the police charges for last year for protesters across the country. And in 95% of the cities across the United States, the charges were dropped before they ever went to court. But not here. Not in this city. No. The mayor and the police chief launched an attack on us in the blackest city in the nation. They decided that freedom couldn't stand here. That us standing up and saying, we will fight for our right to housing, to water, to not be murdered in the streets, to not have resources in the middle of a pandemic going towards federal agents. We're going to fight against that. They decided we couldn't do that. So they were going to dispense every resource that they had. Beat us in the streets, tear gas us, put me in a chokehold, run us over with SUVs, sue us. Every resource that they had, they came at us with it here. And we still want a federal injunction. We still made it so that those charges were dropped and dismissed for the majority of protesters. And we did that because we were militant. We did that because that's our legacy. Because that's what it is that we inherited from freedom fighters, from this city. We did that because we were organized. And I don't want people to forget that. Because it's tough and it's difficult. And we're all in a lot of pain right now. And you can sit with that. But I also want you to see through that pain every single thing that we've won. Every single thing that we've won so far. And that if we keep going, we have to keep going. Every single way that they attack us, we got to fight back. Because that's the only way we get freedom. That's the only way I don't have to stand on this stage with images of people that we've lost. That's the only way that the next time we're able to come together, we can come together just because we just want to, not because we have to. That don't happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen if we don't continue to do what we've been doing. That's not going to happen if we don't get stronger, if we don't get better, if we don't overcome even more than what we've already overcome. And I talk about history a lot because it's so important. It's so important to just look back and just read and to think critically about the abolitionists, to think critically about the civil rights movement and what it is that they had to endure and what it is that they had to overcome and how long those fights were, arduous and hard. It's so important to look back and to understand, because I know we're tired. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. But the truth is that that's what I've been experiencing my whole life. That's what it's like to be poor and black in this city. That's what it's like to be poor and black in Chicago. Every single day, somebody is being murdered at the hands of the state, and it might not be with a bullet or a taser, but it's because poor black people don't have housing or clean water. It's because in this city, there was a systematic plan to dismantle public education here and everywhere across the world. So that's what it's like. So I'm sorry, because if you didn't know, welcome to Detroit. Welcome to the ghetto. Welcome to what it's like to be being under attack your whole life and to be fighting every single day to survive. So I'm really happy to be here. Truly, I was like, speeding to make sure that I got here to be able to see people because it's been a while and I broke my foot and that's been really unfortunate. And I'm happy and I heard some of the speeches and I think people are energized and people are in a really good mood. And I'm glad. We got to take care of each other and we got to take care of ourselves because we're here for a long time. Because this is the fight of our lives. This is the fight of our lives. We got to win because the alternative is worse. I promise. So thank you. So if I have shirts for you, I have them up here.
All right, freedom fighter and merchandiser. Let's get it. Yeah, multiple sources. So that concludes our planned speakers. We wanted to open it up for 2-minute open mic.
Defeating this system, if we have any hope of ending this violence, we need to understand our enemy, and our enemy is protected. Our enemy is massively organized. Our enemy has all the resources at its disposal. Our enemy has the institutions and the courts. It has the laws. It has the lawmakers. It has every bit of the resources at its disposal. The only way we can hope to defeat an enemy like that is by a mass movement of all the people. A mass movement. A mass movement of all oppressed people, of all exploited people, regardless of what that looks like. Because we cannot do it without each other. We cannot do it without solidarity. A solidarity that cannot be broken by these justice systems, these so-called justice systems. A solidarity that can't be broken by a courthouse or by a prison or by the cops back there or the cops over there. We talk a lot about a mass movement of all the people, but what does that look like? And it doesn't look like just the people in this crowd, the person next to you, the person behind you. It doesn't look like the people that come out to every single protest. It doesn't look like the people that, post about activism or post about social justice. Of course, we need these people. We need organizers, and we need the people that put the word out there. We need the people that are always out here on a daily basis, right? But a true mass movement of the people, as Joe mentioned, is going to take millions, because our enemy is everywhere in this country. It cannot just be 12, 20, 30, 100, 1,000 here in Denver, or 1,000 in Minneapolis, or 1,000 in New York, or 1,000 in LA. It has to be every single person in our communities. The people that are not political right now. The people that don't understand these systems of oppression. The people that have not yet accepted these systems of oppression. It has to be your neighbors, your teachers, your family, your students. It has to be every single working person who has their labor stolen from them by a capitalist. It has to be every single black and brown person who has to fear when they go outside of their house, or even when they're in their house. Like Breonna Taylor, who was murdered in her own home, asleep, doing nothing. So we know that the cruelty, the immense violence, the immense brutality of this system that we endure every single day, that our friends and family endure, that our loved ones endure, that we suffer through and we die through. We know that that immense brutality can only be defeated by a mass movement. And it's not always going to be easy. We're not always going to be out here in the thousands. We're not always going to be out here in the hundreds. There's going to be times when it's going to be a dozen. But we need to continue that fight. We need to continue that struggle. We need to be organized. We need to be disciplined. We need to appeal to all people, not just the people that like to protest, that want to be out here. We need to appeal to the single mothers that can't feed their children. We need to appeal to the people that can't get the mental health needs that they require. We need to appeal to the old people that are sick in hospitals, whose family has abandoned them, or who the system has abandoned them. We need to appeal to every single person. That's why every person here should be an organizer. Every single person here should be a revolutionary and make a commitment to bring every single person they know in the community into this fight until it's done. Thank you.
Black people in every
and white people will never understand the depth of. This leads me to my next points of interrogation. Who manipulates the narrative? Who do we listen to? Who do you let lead? Who do you let weave our story of our struggle? Who fabricates our reality? See, tonight I am thinking of what has built the Black fight. With our protests, chants, shoes on the pavement, and speeches. And so we grieve and so we love, but when the fuck do we fight? The fight for justice is endless. It is not bound to today. It is not bound to the death of these people. It is every day. It is a lifetime. In the United States and across the world, it is bound to the existence of blackness and indigenous people, to living and enduring the structures of white supremacy at its lowest rungs. Justice does not exist to absolve the perpetrators of violence. It exists to mend and heal the generational wounds of the victims. It is about anchoring peace and making amendments. Tonight is about honoring life in the best way we can. It is about thinking of all those lost from police brutality across the United States, including Massachusetts. It is honoring life in the West in the best way blackness knows how to. It is fighting. The United States violence is endless. It cannot end until this nation and the global exploitation it runs on ends. It cannot end until we resist all the lies that whiteness has created us to see us fall. See, this fight is all about resistance. Resistance from the violent narrative this country reads, from the erasure of indigenous people and land we stand on, whose simple existence in history delegitimizes the settler colonial state. Resistance from the labor and exploitation of black people globally that began with the enslavement of Africans 400 years ago and continues worldwide to this day. Resistance from the prosecution of non-Christian religions and belief systems, from the attacks on the Asian community who have been used as scapegoats for the United States, for this country to hide from being held accountable from the thousands of deaths, millions ill, and piling evictions, all to build an overarching resistance against capitalism that has manipulated race, class, and religion to unleash harms for centuries. Resistance is a struggle of fighting against the millions of weapons that whiteness has had to create over and over again. Black people know this resistance too well. It is in our blood, it is in our history, it is in our birthright, it is in our rights. Fighting is never something we will be absolved of because simply our features, our hair, and our skin will always remind us that we must oppose all that goes against us to move forward. Our existence is opposition against the United States and against the entire global north. Our lives, our bodies are tied to being a collective and to collectively fight against all this country's violence serves. The violence that keeps this false nation protected. For the United States to fall institutionally, we must abolish its policing of our bodies, of our lives under the guise of violence it uses to keep us controlled, to keep us strayed from liberation and from unification and from the peace of the collective. Humanity's strongest ties are not to false nations of violence. They are to the land we inhabit. They are to the earth and the life it keeps protected in its spheres. We are not invested in our oppression. We are only held back by it. It's why they police blackness, and all for what? Fear. 400 years of historical evidence of fear for black people and our liberation. They police us the hardest because every time we bloom and resist, we manage to tear parts of it apart. Piece by piece, this entire facade will be shred by our hands. They fear liberation because ever since the ideas of continent, nations, and collective identities were imposed on African people, we arose to resist. It's why they are so insistent on breaking us apart. It's why they continue to draw borders in our land and our identity, ensuring that black people internationally will never feel security, safety, and protection as long as white supremacy and capitalism remains in power. It is why we never stop fighting. Even when most of you stop, we cannot. We organize for survival. It is why we must build to make an effort to make community, mutual aid that keeps people fed, our people housed, and our people financially stable within the infrastructure of this country. Organizing that keeps us visible in courtrooms, classrooms, and in the street. Organizing that keeps us in houses with stomachs full of food, safe and protected. White people and non-black people, as guests in our revolution, what are you doing for us? What can you do to keep community protected and safe? When they try to keep us poor, we organize. When they try to keep us houseless, we organize. When they deny food and water, we organize. When they threaten existence and living, we organize. Because I believe that when we organize, we can, fuck that we will, make this entire country obsolete.
Make some noise for all of y'all. All right, up next.
next, I'm going to bring up Solon, who's going to shed more light on the Moses Harris situation. Come on over. Make some noise for Solon, y'all. A little bit louder. Make some noise for Solon, y'all.
So, as some of you may know, a bunch of us came directly from a funeral service in Rome for... My voice is shot. Okay. So as some of you may know, a bunch of us came directly from a funeral service in Lowell for a 25-year-old man named Moses Harris who was killed by Lowell PD on December 19th. I don't want to go too much into the case and instead just really celebrate his life because that's what he deserved most. But what I will say is Lowell PD have lied to his family and to the media and to us. They have threatened to arrest all of us protesting. They have threatened his family. They are really just trying to scare them as much as fucking possible, and it is ridiculous, and we need to do something to protect people because these people live here, they belong here, and they will always fucking be here. So, if you want to help support Moses and his family right now, we do have protests every Saturday in Lowell. There are flyers, I know they're about FFC's Instagram, a bunch of organizations, but it's at 850 Lawrence Street, starting at 12 o'clock. Show up, we need bodies, we need people. You say you stand for Black lives, this shit doesn't just happen in other countries, in other states, it happens right fucking here. Over and over and over again. But we like to pretend it doesn't. I was out all winter and I saw y'all disappear. I saw protests get smaller. I saw mutual aid go down. Come on, we can't only fight for Black lives when it's warm out. We have to be there all the fucking time. Thank you.
Make some noise for Solon, y'all. Hold on. Make some noise for Solon, y'all. Like Solon was saying, we got mutual aid every Friday over by Malia Cass and Mass Ave. Actually, my man right here, Domingos, right here, raise your hand, bro. He's also really about making the neighborhood better, both through mutual aid and holding motherfuckers accountable. We're no longer doing one, we're doing both. All of them. So make some noise for the community, y'all. All right, we got.
Checks on fire! Liar, checks on fire! Liar, checks on fire! Liar, checks on fire! People used to live here. Black people used to live here. Everybody in their homes filming us right now. Like, this has been like happening a lot. March with us! March with us!
They have bulletproof vests, full gear, backup, on call, body cams, but they want us to remain calm. When they pull us over, and now they're yelling at us to get out the car, Or when they're stopping us for no reason, they want us to remain calm. How do you remain calm with a gun in your face? Remain calm, but they want us to remain calm, though. Don't make any subtle movements when we're unarmed. We're no potential threat to the police. The biggest gang ever. The police are not going to get better. There's no reform. It's just going to keep on getting worse. We keep on making these little passive laws. We thought because Joe Biden became president that things are going to get better. But things are not going to get better for us. Not with the police. The police are going to keep on killing people. And this is going for not just black people. This is for all oppressed groups. Portland police just killed a homeless white man. Was that yesterday? The day before? So that just goes to show that we're out here fighting for black lives, but we're fighting for all oppressed groups. That means that we're fighting for the poor white people. We're fighting for the Native American people. We're fighting for the Latinx community. We're fighting for everyone. All oppressed groups. The police have never been a help to us. So it's up to us to create these mutual aid groups. These mutual aid groups are serious. When you see things like, you have Michaela who has all these snacks in the car, water for you guys, stuff like that, that's mutual aid. That's free. That's free. I mean, that is free. These people that are coming out here, medics, these are actual trained medics. These are not people that just got out here and put some red tape on their body. These are actual trained trauma medics that are out here. That is mutual aid. And we have de-escalators, people who are blocked up. Like we have the guy on the bike, all right? Guy on the bike. As frustrating as he is, we don't feel a need to get physical with him. We don't feel a need, hit him with a baton or anything. We just talk to him. We keep the march going, and we do the best we can. Because we're not out here to hurt anybody or tell anyone what they can or can't do. We're just out here to march and spread our message. That's what we're out here for. So like I said, Dante Wright, 20 years old. Another unarmed black man. And we're on a countdown. Like these are not rare happenings, especially in Minneapolis right now. We are at a war. This is a civil war. It is either Black Lives Matter or you're on the other side. There's no in between. There's no playing neutral. All that, we don't choose a side bullshit. You are with us or you are against us. You are either for justice or you are not. We're gonna keep on marching because it's hot outside. I don't want to keep y'all here for too long. But thanks for letting me talk to y'all. Keep on marching.
It's the power of the continuity that we have here today between the history we make today and the history we all inherit. The significance of the indigenous lands that we all stand on and the people among us today whose ancestors fought to survive and what we can learn from them. The interconnectedness of not only Austin and San Antonio, but also local and national movements within the global diaspora. The alignment of legislative and policy advocacy with the very heart of who we are as we the people, we meaning all of us. The rising out of the model minority boxes created for Asian Americans, coming out of that to unite with Black power and liberation, with who we want to, because of who we are and our liberation and humanity is bound up in one another, who want to see true liberation become a reality for all people of color and other groups who are oppressed. As we carry on in the work we each do, may we all know more of the power of working together and our interconnectedness, because the junctures of where we all work together, relationally and collectively, is where our work is most powerful and where true change can happen. Before I pass on the mic, I just want to take this time to share words that may not have been spoken here yet in this space. They are words that were uttered not only in the Philippines as far back as the late 1960s and the 1970s to resist dictatorship and imperialism, because behind all of that is white supremacy. Also to support workers' rights, and today here in the U.S., we see immigrant workers often the target of workplace-related violence, along with gender violence. but these are words that were uttered in Hawaii to resist gentrification and across the U.S. to fight for ethnic studies. With these words, when you repeat them, know that you create continuity in history and strength between the individual work we each do and the shared work we all contribute to. And with these words, I just want to encourage everyone. And I'll first translate before I invite you to repeat after me. Makibaka, which means join us in the fight. Keep standing together in this fight. And wag matakot, which means don't be afraid. Makibaka! Wag matakot! Thank you. Stay strong.
We know that it's not just one bad cop somewhere, it's not just one bad department somewhere. We hear a lot about these rotten departments and the need for, trade standard that we're trying to achieve. No, the cops are doing their jobs. They are literally tasked with overseeing and enforcing a system that is violent, that is racist, that needs to keep the lid on. And so it is their job to see Black people, the people who have the most incentive to do something about this system, to let them know they are watched, they are patrolled, they can be killed, there are no consequences, so stay in line. That is their job. That is why these excesses occur all the time. They are armed to the teeth. They are trained to see Black people as criminals and as threats. These excesses make sense. That is what they're tasked to do. That's what they're allowed to do. That's why we see it everywhere in the country. And the only way that we are going to eliminate this terror is to build a movement everywhere in this country of every person who sees this and says, I won't stand for it. And I want to be clear, yeah, it's a big task, but this is not utopian, because we saw the rumblings of the kind of movement that could achieve that this summer. Do you know that tens of millions of people in every city and every town in this country, even in Amish towns, were in the streets? There was nearly a third of the population took part in these protests. Now that is a historic fact. That is a remarkable fact. Why do you think the media isn't telling us, wow, a third of the country was in the streets, a third of the country is fed up with the system, a third of the country came together? They know our power. We need to know our power. And beyond that, we need to seize our power. And by that, I mean get organized. Because imagine those tens of millions of people organized, coordinated, clear-sighted, knowing the end goal. That is how we turn the summer of 2020 into the revolution of 2021. And so I just want to urge everyone today, if you're about it, if you don't want to just wait for the next death, if you don't want to just wait for the next protest, there's work to be done every single day. Get organized. Get organized. It is your duty, if you are seeing this, to make it a struggle that you don't leave behind at any moment, because there are our brothers and sisters who can never leave the struggle behind. It's not an option. So that should be how we treat this, all of us. All of us. And so I just want to tell you that when we say, if we don't get no justice, then they don't get no peace, let's show them that we mean that. If we don't get no justice, 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 there's nothing that scares them more than our unified voice, understanding what we need to do to unseat them.
That's right.
right, y'all. The police do not protect or serve us. We protect us, right? We serve us. So when I say, who do you protect? I want you to say, who do you serve? Who do you protect? 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 Who do you serve? That's right. All right, we're going to get one more before we continue off marching. And it goes something like, you can't ignore
From there, when I went to court on Monday, when I went to court that following Monday, they tried to hold me for 3 days on a dangerousness hearing, saying that I was a detriment to the society. They tried to ban me. They tried to ban me from interactions with all elderly people over the age of 65, and they tried to ban me from the town of Swampscott, even though I will never go back to that shithole again.
No, we got
I'm gonna go back with the beach chair and sit where I got arrested and have a steak and cheese. But before I get there, after I had my first pretrial hearing, I was suspended from my job indefinitely, and then later on, I was terminated.
As we vow to stop Asian hate in our community, it is integral also to highlight the experiences and voices of LGBTQIA+ Asian Americans who face discrimination both as Asian Americans and also as queer Americans. Thus, it is my honor to introduce Anna Nguyen. Anna is a Vietnamese American, a transgender woman, a war refugee, a longtime Austinite, a runway model, a software engineer, and a fierce LGBTQIA+ rights advocate. Anna is the current president of PFLAG Austin and has served on its all-volunteer board for 6 years. PFLAG is a national nonprofit that unites LGBTQIA+ people and their families and allies to support, educate, and advocate for their rights. Anna also volunteers with other local organizations and has won many honors for her leadership. Please welcome my dear friend and fellow advocate, Anna Nguyen.
Thank you, Horace. My name is Anna Nguyen. I am a Vietnamese American transgender woman. It is such an honor to be here, and I'm so energized to see so many people here. I want to speak to you today about unity and about how even as we seek to unite, there are those who will want to divide us. We are here today because xenophobic rhetoric has resulted in violence against AAPI people ratcheting up by 150%. We are here today because elderly Asian grandmothers are being knocked down and stomped on. But when we rise up against anti-Asian hate crimes, there are people who will say, what's the matter? Black lives don't matter anymore? Black men and boys are still inordinately the target of police brutality. They will say, and what about the killing of transgender women of color? And they will say, what about mass shootings? And what about the atrocious rise in domestic violence during the pandemic? And what about the unprecedented suppression of reproductive freedom? What about? When we rise up against one injustice, they will say there are greater injustices to be fought. I say to them, yes, there are. Every injustice is wrong, and we will continue to fight against each and every one. Every injustice is worth our time, our effort to shed light on and to fight against. They will try to get us to compare our sufferings and our oppressions. They will pit Black Lives Matter against anti-Asian hate crimes. They will pit the travesty of the unhoused against the tragedy of mass shootings, domestic violence, against freedom of reproductive choices. They will try to get us to compare the damage suffered by oppressed groups. They will use that to divide us. They will use that to pit us against one another. They will try to distract us. When we compete with each other on how much each of us has suffered, which of us has suffered more, that helps the oppressor, never the oppressed. Every oppression, every inequality, every hate crime, every atrocity is worth fighting against. Anytime, every time, everywhere. What we face may seem insurmountable. What each of us does may seem insignificant. Do not be discouraged. This is like voting. My one vote will not sway an election. But your vote, my vote, our vote, hundreds of thousands of votes, millions of votes, will dictate the future of this city, of this county, of this state, of this country. None of us is as powerful as all of us. Let us stand together, let us vote together, and let us build a better tomorrow for all of us. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Show me what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
Yeah,
keep on marching. I just want to bring awareness to that it is April. Pretty sure it is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, right? If I'm not mistaken. So yeah, shout out to all the survivors. We believe you, and we love you guys.
What I love about being here and looking out into this crowd before me is that what I see is a bunch of traitors, right? You're all traitors. And what I mean by that is you are traitors to the systems that are in place to destroy people like me. And as traitors, we have a responsibility. We have a responsibility to betray every notion that causes harm in our communities. So men, that means it's time to betray all men. It's time to betray all men. White people, it's time to betray all white people. Straight people, it is time to betray all straight people. Able-bodied people, it is time to betray able-bodied people. If we are to move forward as a movement, we cannot go any longer without being painstakingly critical about the cops in our head, about the homophobes in our head, the misogynists in our head. We can't go any longer without looking. That's all.
Afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter Tanaka. I'm an organizer with Detroit Will Breathe. I feel a lot of heartbreak and sorrow over the killings that have unfolded this past week, everything else that has come to attention. We organized this event on Thursday night, and the meeting had just ended, and that's when the Adam Toledo video was released, and it just really hit a nerve. I said my last name is Tanaka. I'm Asian, and so these last, I guess, since the Atlanta shooting, my racial identity and everything has been on my mind. And what was so hard about it was that there was no place for me to hide. When Stop Asian Hate became a hashtag in the center of national attention for a little bit. I delivered groceries, and while this was on my mind, I delivered groceries to the wrong house. I won't do that again if anybody orders groceries from me. I'll do my best at least. I lost one of my regular clients because I just did such a horrendous job with hers. I broke eggs. People came up to me and just gave me hugs in the store. I had to sit down on a bench and just cry. And in the back of my mind was wondering what it's like to always be in the news cycle, to always have your people killed and shot, and to never be able to hide from that. I don't expect to ever know what it's like to be black, but as this was in the back of my mind, and the spa shootings kind of fell to the background of the George Floyd, the lieutenant that was maced, Adam Toledo, Dante Wright, it's why it's so important that Asian people also come out and support the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm very grateful for WWN, because WWN organized the initial events for Asian people to come out, and hundreds of people came out. And I think the point that isn't stressed enough about this, too, though, is the black leadership that has helped create this space for Asians. Because Zora Bowen, she helped incredibly as one of the lead organizers with SINA. The march that happened in Royal Oak just the other weekend, For Asian Lives, was organized by a black woman. So I guess, as an Asian person, I just want to express that gratitude. And to the point that Nakia had talked about knowing the history and about being tired and that it's going to take everything. I guess I thought that it would be a lot easier to win. And after the adrenaline tapers off and we realize what a long haul it is and coming out to march every single day or show up on call, it is hard. Reading history and realizing that it was in the 1870s people were calling for unionization, asking for a living wage. In 1891, the Catholic Church, the Pope, said it was a fundamental human right to have a living wage in 1891, and we're still talking about this. So this fight that we are doing, it's not just hard, it's actually never been won. And I do feel that it is a privilege to be here with everybody, picking up the mantle of that fight and trying to do what has never been done before, learning off the lessons of those who have come before us, and doing whatever we can. So I just look forward to continuing in this struggle together, and I'm grateful to be here with everybody. Thank you.
Here, and it's one of the larger houseless encampments we have here in Eugene. And honestly, they usually don't, like the city doesn't usually let this many houseless folks sleep here, but they have a porta potty set up over here now. They have 6 of them, it looks like. I think they have more over at the skate park. There's a Washington Jefferson skate park right over there, which is actually one of the best skate parks in Oregon. Probably is the best skate park in Oregon. Yeah, I'm sure it won't. My point.
Down, down, down with the police. 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 Down, down, down with the police.
Thank you.
Fuck the police. 1, 2, 3. Said on the count of 3, say fuck the police. 1, 2, 3. Said on the count of 3, say fuck the police. 1, 2, 3. Fuck the police. Arrest me, arrest the police. Say don't arrest me, arrest the police. Don't arrest me, arrest the police. Say don't arrest me.
Pronouns, a speaker from Anak Bayan, Seattle, a national democratic Filipino youth and student organization, sorry for the puppy, that in 2002 was established as the first overseas chapter of Anak Bayan, Philippines. Round of applause for Jess.
I'm gonna start us off with a chant, so I'm gonna do a call and then y'all will do the response. When I say the people united, you all say, we'll never be defeated. Ready? The people united! We'll never be defeated! Thank you. Good afternoon. Like they mentioned, I am a member of Anak Bayan Seattle, and we are a comprehensive organization of Filipino youth and students fighting for national sovereignty and genuine democracy in the Philippines. I want to quickly shout out the organizers of this rally for their work to put this together. We know as a youth organization that organizing means to choose struggle, and it means to take the path that is less traveled. So I appreciate you all for showing up today.
You're with us on TikTok. Thank you so much for joining. This is only our second stream.
Now, I also want to be very clear.
Say his name. Say his name.
Imperialist geopolitical objectives everywhere, including the Asia Pacific. Meaning our fight against anti-Asian violence, against police brutality, militarization, and state repression is inextricably linked to the colonization, exploitation, and state repression and state violence in our home countries. This current manifestation of public violent attacks on Asian women and elders is just the surface. Dig below that surface and you will find the Asian Exclusion Act of 1924, the mass internment of Japanese Americans in World War II, the mob riots against Filipino migrant agricultural workers. In particular, you will find that attacks against Asian women are rooted in the ongoing history of poor and working class women being forced to provide rest and relaxation for white U.S. military troops in order to survive. Dig deeper down to the root of the problem, and you will find imperialism and its thirst for wealth and power. U.S. militarized police who killed George Floyd, who killed Angelo Quinto, both with a knee to the neck, are akin to the U.S. military who are sent to the Philippines to train and arm the state forces, targeting all who fight for human rights throughout the archipelago. All of this being funded with your U.S. tax dollars. And these are the same state forces that killed Chai and Ariel Evangelista in front of their 10-year-old son over trumped-up charges, planted evidence during last month's Bloody Sunday killings against activists. It's the cooperation of the global ruling classes to suppress all dissent. In the Philippines, it's the slaughtering of thousands of our kababayan who are human rights defenders, students, women, indigenous people, peasants, farmers. It's also mass unemployment and militarized COVID lockdowns that are terrorizing the urban poor. All the manifestations of imperialism, only a few I have named today, are the result of strategically organized imperialist powers fighting one another with the aim of complete control and suppression of the masses for profit. Even with Trump gone, the Biden administration is set to establish a $27.4 billion network of precision strike missiles across Taiwan, Okinawa, the Philippines, and other countries, all to deter Chinese imperialists. So again, let's be clear. We share a common enemy, and that is U.S. imperialism. So what do? They want our forces separated. Here in the belly of the beast and in our homelands, the most dangerous thing that we can do is unite all who are oppressed under capitalism, especially the working class and poor, especially Black, Indigenous, Muslim, Sikh, and trans and undocumented folks. We can't solve anti-Asian hate with colonial fetishized representation and love. We can't solve anti-Asian hate with colonial fetishized representation and love for Asian cultures and individuals. We refuse to solve it with cops who will always be weaponized against poor and BIPOC communities. And we know better than to put all of our energy into endlessly attempting to solve it through voting one imperialist president or representative over another. So we solve it with organizing, with uniting against our common enemy, and understanding each other's particular conditions and working towards mutual benefit. We strike imperialism at the root through international, working class solidarity and a broad united front. As Anak Bayan Seattle, we know our role as Filipino youth in the imperial core, in the belly of the beast, is to agitate, organize, and mobilize against this rotten system. We study and we act so that we can dig to the root problems of Philippine society: U.S. imperialism, big landlords and feudalism, and capitalist politicians and political dynasties, and we tear it all down. We unite the masses for the national democratic revolution with a socialist perspective. And we answer the call for the masses to build a new society for genuine democracy and a sovereign Philippines. We also know that revolution is not a single event, nor is it a single summer. And so I invite you to join our movement against U.S. imperialism and the fascist U.S. Duterte regime. Here's an easy chant for you. It goes, "Oust Duterte now." Ready? Oust Duterte now! Yes. So if you're interested, Malaya Seattle is a U.S.-based alliance against fascist dictatorship and for a democratic and sovereign Philippines. They're holding an orientation tomorrow online at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. You can find them on Instagram at malaya.seattle. And if you're interested in joining our youth organization for the National
of the Austin story. What is your role? Will you remain a silent character whose complicity nurtures hate? Or will your voice and hands actively work to dismantle systems of oppression? Because Austin, the truth is there is no neutrality. You will either leverage your position of power and authority, or perhaps even privilege to empower and affirm the oppressed, or you will allow privilege to simply shield you from the pain, suffering, and injustice we have come to witness. So those of you who have shown up today exploring your personal or our collective response, asking what do I do or how do I start, I offer you this, that we shouldn't require one more death or one more shooting or the continued brutalization of Asian, Black, and brown and indigenous bodies to move us to action or apathy. Our collective freedom hinges on our collective fight. So my call to action today is to discover how you might move yourself, your neighborhoods, your spaces of influence, your spaces of faith, from a posture of apathy, from a disposition simply being non-racist, to a visceral, active, sacrificial posture of anti-racism. Well, let me leave you with a few reminders, Austin, as we embolden our commitment to stop Asian hate, ensure Black lives do matter, and disrupt racial oppression in all its forms. Our anti-racism requires dismantling white supremacy. Our anti-racism must acknowledge the pain, trauma, and systemic oppression of all communities of color. Our anti-racism needs to be visible, not just intellectual. Our anti-racism requires you to be bold, not meek. Our anti-racism needs to be intentional, not performative. Our coagitation should inform our private and professional decisions, not just our political vote. Your anti-racism needs to be pervasive and sustained, not merely a response to how long a hashtag remains in your Twitter feed. Our racial justice needs to be unapologetic, not neutral or conditional. And our anti-racism cannot center your comfort. It must instead elevate truth. Our anti-racism must start today, not tomorrow. The work of racial justice necessitates our collective presence. So how will you pull up, Austin? Signed, a Black Austinite whose life matters, who stands against Asian hate.
Good afternoon, Austin. How you doing? Let me first say it's an honor and pleasure to be here because this is very important work. But here's what I want to say, okay? These are dark moments in our current situations, but we've had dark moments before. So I'm not discouraged. I'm actually encouraged because in the worst of times, we have an equal responsibility to get going and solve these issues. A few things first. The NAACP was formed 112 years ago in dark moments and dark times. And our goal was to eradicate racism and discrimination, the very same things we see today. Here we are in 2021, and in many ways we're fighting similar issues because there's a level of commitment and understanding we must show. In these times, our resolve to prevent this hate and radicalizations of certain people when they hurt other people has to be much greater than those who are perpetuating these acts themselves. So your will must be more powerful than theirs. So when these events end, you go to your space and you work and you think about the principles of justice, of fairness, of equal opportunity. And you make sure you stand firm and make a commitment to not only stop hate, first say zero tolerance. Zero tolerance. Unfortunately, in this country today, people have been radicalized to hurt other people. That's a different kind of problem. We have to acknowledge that, accept that, and understand the cycle that we're going through as human beings. It's happening all over the world. And one final comment. I left this university 30-something years ago to change the world, to fight racism, to fight discrimination, to fight hate. You know what? The very principles we talk about, like justice,